Avengers Endgame is in theaters now, and if you haven't seen it yet, what are you doing here? You're about to get spoiled, but your choice. The latest Marvel movie marks the end of this era of the MCU, so let's take a spoiler-filled look at the conclusion to this story that was 22 films in the making. Warning, major spoilers ahead. How many times do I have to say it? Let's go. Endgame gave us grand finales for a lot of our favorite superheroes and superhero teams, so we have a lot of ground to cover here. Let's start with the end of Phase 3. Officially, Phase 3 of the MCU ends with Spider-Man Far From Home, but this sure felt like the culmination of over a decade of films. Shockingly, Marvel broke their long-standing tradition of having multiple post-credit scenes with Endgame. The end of this movie is actually the end, with no stingers or gags to cap it off. It goes like this. Some creative maneuvering from 2014 Nebula, not present-day good guy Nebula, brings the fight with 2014 Thanos, not present-day Thanos, who is dead, to Earth after the Avengers scavenged through the time stream for the Infinity Stones in the past. Luckily, before the fight actually starts up, Bruce is able to use the time-heisted stones in Iron Man's custom gauntlet. This brings back everyone who was dusted, so the team has some serious reinforcements when Thanos and the Chitauri arrive. The ensuing fight is beyond epic, with tons of superheroes. We've got Wakandans, we've got sorcerers, we've got Asgardians. If you've seen them before, they're here and they're ready to battle. But of course, even with all the backup in the world, Thanos is not going down easy. The fight actually allows Steve Rogers to finally prove his worth and wield Mjolnir. Remember that moment in Age of Ultron when he couldn't pick it up?
Nothing.
The fight includes some truly beautiful spotlight moments, including Carol and Wanda getting their own shot at Thanos. All while the Avengers play cosmic hot potato with the new Infinity Gauntlet they've made. That's the name of the game for most of the fight. Keep the stones away from Thanos while beating back the Chitauri and the Black Order. For as huge as this battle is, there really isn't any collateral damage outside the Avengers compound, which is pretty thoroughly demolished. Rest in pieces. Anyway, the fight manages to conclude with a narrow miss. Thanos manages to get the gauntlet back, but Tony's fast enough to get the stones from him before he can use them. And that's when Tony gets to have his big moment. Thanos says, "I am inevitable," and Tony responds with the ultimate Iron Man 1 comeback and says, "I am Iron Man."
I am Iron Man.
He integrates the stones into his armor and snaps his fingers, which results in a mirror of Infinity War's final moments, except this time it's Thanos, the Black Order, and the Chitauri who turn to dust. Unfortunately, that sort of power comes with a price. Tony's use of the gauntlet takes a massive toll and tragically, if expectedly, costs him his life. He stays alive long enough to get some poignant goodbyes to the people he cares about most, like Pepper and Peter and Rhodey. The funeral is where it gets really tough. Pepper makes a memorial with her proof that Tony Stark has a heart trophy from back in the first Iron Man movie and sets it to sail on the peaceful lake behind their property. It's well attended by all of Tony's friends and family. Even Nick Fury, who has been otherwise MIA for the whole movie, shows up. The kid from Iron Man 3 is there too, though it might take you a second to recognize him.
What's your name?
Harley. And you're...
The mechanic. Tony.
Tony leaves behind Pepper and their daughter Morgan, who gets a very cute moment with Happy. He asks if she's hungry, and she replies yes, and that she'd like a cheeseburger. Happy laughs and tells her that her dad liked cheeseburgers too, another Iron Man 1 callback.
There are two things I want to do. I want an American cheeseburger.
Tony's first request after setting foot back stateside was for a cheeseburger. Apparently, the Stark family has a very specific method of coping with trauma. Joking aside, Tony's arc culminates in a major payoff for a moment back in Avengers 1 when Steve and Tony have one of their first fights.
I've seen the footage. The only thing you really fight for is yourself. You're not the guy to make the sacrifice play, to lay down on a wire and let the other guy crawl over you.
I think I would just cut the wire.
It may have taken 6 whole movies, but Tony finally has a chance to prove himself as a hero once and for all. Despite all the evidence and predictions to the contrary, Steve Rogers did not die in the final fight with Thanos. But he did get a pretty definitive ending. After all the time heisting went down, someone had to return all of the Infinity Stones to their spots in history to prevent branching timelines from happening and chaos. Steve does this alone using a hastily built quantum portal, but it doesn't go exactly as planned. Rather than just dropping each stone back where it came from and returning to the present, Steve decides to peel off and, you guessed it, go live a full life with Peggy Carter back in the past. Instead of teleporting back to the current time, an elderly Steve shows up at the rendezvous point. The logic here gets a little fuzzy from a time travel perspective, but apparently going back and marrying Peggy didn't cause a branched timeline and they finally got their dance. In his own words, he took Tony's advice to try living a normal life. As an old man, Steve clearly won't be doing any more superheroics, but don't worry, the world won't be without a Captain America for too long. He passes the shield to Sam, who will officially take the mantle when there is a need. This exact scenario also happened in the comics. During the 5-year post-Thanos time jump, Thor and the Asgardian refugees formed New Asgard, a little oceanside town where Thor kinda let himself go. However, by the end of the movie, he's decidedly got his groove back and is ready to get back on the proverbial saddle. He accomplishes this by first leaving New Asgard to a new ruler, Valkyrie, and then joins the Guardians of the Galaxy, or shall I say Asgardians of the Galaxy, to adventure through space. There is some conflict right away, however, when Quill and Thor can't quite agree about who's in charge. It's probably Quill, right? Guess we'll see you in Guardians 3. What did you think of the ending of Endgame? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe so you get more videos about Endgame coming your way. See you next time.